The Calgary Police Service Homicide Unit is seeking public assistance to locate a man who may have information about a death earlier this week, which now has been declared a homicide. On Tuesday, November 22nd, 2016, a man walked into a Calgary Fire Department station at 10th Avenue Southwest, saying he needed help for his roommate. Firefighters drove the man back to a home in the 1800 block of 17th Street Southwest, where they located a deceased man and contacted police at approximately 1:30 p.m. An autopsy completed Wednesday, November the 23rd, 2016, confirmed the manner of death as homicide and identified the victim as Richard PEMBER, age 58, of Calgary. As the investigation has progressed, we have identified another man believed to have information about what may have occurred within this residence. Multiple attempts have been made to locate this person, but have failed, and investigators are now turning to the public for assistance in locating him. This man has been identified as Zachery Frederick RIDER, age 36, of no fixed address, Calgary. He is described as an Aboriginal male, approximately 5'9", 180 pounds. Anyone who may have information regarding his whereabouts is asked to call the city police or contact Crime Stoppers anonymously.
Is the victim also of no fixed address?
No, the victim reside at the place of occurrence in the 1800 block of 17th Street Southwest.
What can you tell us about the events that led up to this? 2900 at the time told us that there was some sort of altercation or something.
The investigation is ongoing, but we believe there to be an altercation inside this residence, which resulted in injuries to the deceased.
The man that showed up at the fire department, does he have any connection to this? Is he the guy that's wanted, or is he totally separate?
So Mr. Ryder, we need to speak with him, as we believe he was in or near the residence during the time that this happened.
But he's not the same person that showed up and got help?
Correct. That was the roommate of the deceased victim.
Just to be clear, the altercation, the victim, everything was found inside one of the units?
Correct. So this is a transitional housing complex with multiple units, and an altercation occurred inside the victim's unit.
How difficult does that make it, given that this is transitional housing? We spoke with a lot of people at the scene, and they say the place is well known to police. You guys have been there multiple times, and the fact that there's people in and out at all hours of the day.
We have attended the address in the past, but it makes it really no less difficult than any other investigation. The victim, in this case, resided at this residence, and so we treat it exactly the same.
Is he known to police, the victim?
The victim, we will not speak to whether or not he's known to police or not.
Is this Ryder guy?
Yes, Mr. Ryder is known to police.
And for criminal activity, or?
Mr. Ryder is known to police. That's all I
Do you
can
feel
do.
this was an assault based on was it drugs or drug-related points, or is that investigation still early?
It is early on. We're trying to determine what the motive was for this homicide and what may have led to the altercation. We just don't have that information at this time. It's just too early.
There's people that are living in the building that they're fearful, and one woman, she said that she puts a chair on her door every night. She lives above the suite. Are other people at risk?
This specific homicide altercation was not a random attack. So my answer to that is there's nothing to indicate that any other person in that building is at risk.
Is Mr. Ryder being considered a suspect, or just?
Mr. Ryder right now is considered what we call a person of interest. We've identified him as having information and being at the residence at the time or in and around the time that this occurred, And as such, we need to speak with him, but we can't locate him. So this is our plea to the public for any information regarding his whereabouts to help out the police here and let us know about that.
What about cause of death?
I cannot speak to cause of death, just the manner of death being homicide.
And do you believe Mr. Pember was killed in that suite on that day?
We believe that Mr. Pember suffered fatal injuries either that day or early that morning, yes.
In that suite?
The investigation's still ongoing. I can't speak to that.
Other police looking to question anyone else?
We're continuing to conduct neighborhood inquiries. We've seized a pile of CCTV footage from the area. So we're still early on. This is day 3 of the investigation, so we're still talking to a number of people. Yes, we're keeping our eyes open.
Sorry. Are people in the neighborhood being cooperative in that case? When you say it's transitional housing, are they welcoming police with open arms?
We're getting a fairly good level of cooperation both within that transitional housing unit and the surrounding residences and businesses in the area. Yeah.
Can you comment on what type of weapon, if a weapon was used?
I cannot confirm or deny if a weapon was used, and I can't speak to the cause of death.
If you don't believe this is a random attack, do you obviously believe the victim knew his attacker?
Yes, and I can confirm that they probably did.
Do you have a person of interest that you just can't say at the moment, or?
I've said our person of interest is Mr. Ryder.
But is it a suspect, like, that you believe committed the act?
We have no definitive suspects at this point. It's still early in the investigation.
Is this person of interest dangerous? Like people, obviously with caution around this individual?
The person, Mr. Ryder, is known to police.
But should the public see him? Should they
If the public sees him, they should notify police immediately and call 911.
like keep their distance? Or?
Just that we'll always provide that advice that let the police deal with him.
Does it make it more difficult when a suspect has no fixed addresses? Are they more easily able to slip in and out of places without being noticed?
It makes it more difficult, if you will, to track them down. And in this case, that's exactly what we're finding. Mr. Ryder is of no fixed address, and as such, we're doing this public appeal.
Do you think he has fled?
There's no indication that he has fled the area. It's a possibility. It's always a possibility. We just don't know.
Is there anything that you can share on the deceased? About him or who he was? You know anything about the victim?
Just that Mr. Pember was from Calgary. We have been in contact with his family who live outside the city, and that he was 58 years old at the time of his passing.
A person described, sorry.
How's his family?
His family is obviously very distraught and hoping that whoever was responsible for this is brought to justice.
A person described the transitional housing as someone who, housing for people who have just gotten off drugs or alcohol. Do you have a motive for this? Is it drugs or alcohol?
Once again, we have no idea if drugs or alcohol were involved. Keeping our eyes open and exploring those situations as well.
Do you see a bit of a cycle here, or any sort of repetition when dealing with transitional housing? Is this a chronic problem or a constant problem that?
From a homicide perspective, I can say no. This is the first one I've dealt with, and I've been in the homicide unit for a number of years.
Are you working closely with other organizations in the city, places like the Drop-In Center, when somebody that person use their services?
We are. The outside agencies are providing a lot of support in relation to some of the ones you just mentioned, and they're cooperating very well with us.